Are you thinking about sailing on a Disney cruise and wondering what rotational dining is and how exactly it works, especially on the Disney Fantasy or the Disney Dream on one of the UK sailing? This video is just for you. My name's Rhiannon Morgan, everyone calls me Rhi. If you've stumbled across this video, it is part of a series explaining everything you need to know about Disney Cruise Line when you're sailing with families, especially if you're picking a UK cruise, with bonus tips if you have children with autism like I do. So what is rotational dining exactly? Well, rotational dining is a system that's exclusive to the Disney Cruise Line. Each night you rotate through one of the ship's 3 main dining rooms. What's really special is that your specific server team follow you from restaurant to restaurant, making for a really magical and personalized experience. In this video, I'm going to break down each of the restaurants on the Disney Dream and the Disney Fantasy, explaining the similarities and the differences, plus top tips for how you can make the most of your rotational dining experience. Every ship on the Disney Cruise Line has slightly different dining rooms. In this video, we are focusing on the Dream and the Fantasy, which are actually sister ships, meaning that their basic structure is exactly the same with a few different design tweaks. The 3 restaurants on the Dream, which you'll be familiar with if you've seen our 2 different Disney Dream cruise vlog series, are Enchanted Garden, Royal Palace, and Animator's Palette. On the Fantasy, they also have Enchanted Garden and Animator's Palette, but the Royal Palace is slightly reimagined as Royal Court. If you want to make the most of your Disney cruise, make sure you pick up a copy of my Magical Cruise Planner, available in both digital and printed book form. This will help you plan every stage of your Disney cruise, from picking a ship, booking, selecting your onboard activities, your online check-in, outfit planning, packing, last-minute checks, embarkation day, and maximizing every day of your cruise. Scan the QR code on screen now or use the details down in the description to grab your copy. So how exactly does rotational dining work? Let me explain. You won't know which dining room you're dining in each night of your cruise until you board the ship and you log into your Disney Cruise Line Navigator app. This is an app that you can download before your cruise, and it is useful because you can look at your cruise bookings, see any remaining balance. But ultimately, when you're still on the shore, the Disney Cruise Line Navigator app is reasonably limited, and it really lights up and comes into its own with so much information and different options available to you as soon as you board the ship and you connect to the ship's Wi-Fi. So as soon as you board the ship, or sometimes you can actually access the ship's Wi-Fi when you approach the terminal, you'll need to put in your Disney Cruise Line login details, plus details from your booking, such as your stateroom. Then you're online and you can see which restaurant you'll be dining in each night. There are 2 rotational dining seatings each night. You can choose the earlier or the later, but this is something you have to pre-select before you board. And if you choose early, you will dine at the early slot every night. And if you choose late, you'll dine at the later slot every night. We'll talk about which slot you might want to go for, and it's not necessarily as obvious as you might think later on in the video. If you're sailing on at least a 3-night cruise, you should get to sample each of the restaurants in the rotational dining. So of the 3 main dining rooms, let's start with Animator's Palette. Animator's Palette can be found on all 4 of the original ship, including the Magic, the Wonder, the Fantasy, and the Dream, but Animator's is not a restaurant you'll find on the newer ships, such as the Wish and the Treasure. We first dined in Animator's Palette when we sailed on the Disney Magic back in 2021, but Animator's Palette on the Magic was different to when we sailed on the Dream. In the Animator's Palette on the Magic is more of a black and white theme with a splash of colour added in, whereas Animator's Palette on the Dream is more black and red themed, with Animator's Palette on the Fantasy being more similar to the version on the Dream than on the Magic. Animator's Palette can be found in the After the Ship on Deck 3. Animator's Palette is a signature restaurant on Disney Cruise Line ships, celebrated for its immersive dining experience that combines culinary delights with the magic of Disney animation. The menu offers a diverse selection of dishes, including Pacific Rim cuisine, Asian cooking, and fresh California fare. Now, the specific menus are not released prior to sailing by Disney Cruise Line, so will be subject to change from sailing to sailing. But if you check out any of my Disney Cruise Line vlogs, I always share what they have on the menus in each of the restaurants so that you can see the sort of things that might be available when you're sailing. I know this is especially handy if you are sailing with fussier eaters or children with autism who like to be prepared for things, or if you're just excited for your trip. But please bear in mind, if you are sailing with fussy eaters, Disney Cruise Line are absolutely fantastic at catering for everyone. And just because you don't see something on the menu, it doesn't mean that they won't be able to whip it up for you. I know my children specifically have frequently had meals in the restaurants that weren't on the menu for that particular restaurant on that particular night, and the servers have been good enough to go and fetch them from other locations. Now, something really beautiful about Animator's palette is how the animation actually comes to life. When we sailed on the Dream, on both cruises, we experienced the Under the Sea magic show with Crush. It was very, very similar to the Monsters Inc. attraction in Tomorrow World in the Magic Kingdom, in that Crush comes around and talks to you, but not just talks to you, actually interacts with what you are saying. It's very clever. The children absolutely love it. It's always different. It's very funny and entertaining and not to be missed. We've seen the Crush show on the Dream. If you're sailing on the Fantasy on a 3 to 5 night sailing, you should get this too. So on longer sailings, say 7 night and over cruises, you're likely to get the animation magic show in Animator's palette as well, because obviously you're going to go around each of the dining rooms at least twice. Now, none of this is guaranteed, which is why Disney Cruise Line doesn't release details of these before you get on board so that no one's disappointed, but just to give you a general idea of what to expect. Now, the animation show we've only experienced on the Magic, but it was so much fun. While we've not experienced it firsthand on the Fantasy or the Dream, I'm expecting it's going to be something quite similar. On the Magic, we were given sheets of paper to draw our own little characters, and then they were handed into the servers. Mickey brought them to life and they danced around. The next restaurant we're going to look at can be found in both the Dream and the Fantasy, and it's Enchanted Garden. If you take the stairs on deck 3 from the atrium down to deck 2, you'll find Enchanted Garden there. This restaurant offers a serene and elegant dining experience that transforms from day to night. The restaurant is designed to resemble a 19th century French conservatory featuring white trellises, lush greenery, and a central fountain adorned with a cherub Mickey Mouse. Throughout your meal, the light subtly shifts, simulating the transition from bright daytime ambience to a tranquil evening setting, enhancing the atmosphere. The menu is market-inspired, offering a variety of fresh, flavourful dishes. While specific items can vary, guests can expect a selection of appetizers, soups, salads, main courses, and desserts that cater to diverse. Then the third restaurant on the Dream and the Fantasy that we're going to look at before we head on to some of the essential tips is known as Royal Palace on the Disney Dream and Royal Court on the Disney Fantasy. Both are elegant princess-inspired dining rooms with chandeliers, stained glass, and a fairy tale feel. Essentially, they're the same restaurant with a different name. Both restaurants are incredibly elegant with predominantly a French-themed menu. Now remember, it's not just during your rotational dining allocation. You can visit these restaurants. You can check on your Disney Cruise Line Navigator app to see when they are open for both breakfast and lunch options too. While you will get your same server team at that set time for your rotational dining, you'll have other cast members taking care of you if you go for breakfast and lunch. While it is that set time you're expected to attend for rotational dining, breakfast and lunch are just more of a drop-in kind of affair. So which dining time should you pick? Should you pick earlier or should you pick later? So when we sailed on the Magic, I picked the earlier dining time. We were traveling with all 4 of our children, who all normally had dinner at 5 p.m. Our youngest was only 4 at the time. And I thought, no way are they going to wait to eat until after 8 o'clock in the evening. They'll be starving, they'll be tired. The earlier dining slot seemed like a no-brainer. However, it didn't occur to me just how much we'd be eating throughout the cruise. And honestly, on the Magic, I really struggled to eat much of my meal at all because we'd been kind of picking all day at all of the other amazing food, which we will talk about in a separate video. And the other consideration is that if you are going to the earlier dining slot, then your opportunity to watch the Broadway quality show, which is not to be missed. Honestly, the shows on the Disney Cruise Line are absolutely out of this world, will be after dinner. Early diners watch the late show and later diners watch the early show. In brief, if you want your children to watch the show, they're likely to be staying up later anyway, so it's unlikely to matter whether you're earlier or later dining. Now, the exception to this rule is on sea days, where often there is a matinee show available. So on a sea day, technically you could take your children to a matinee show and early dining, and then you'd be free to take them to bed after dinner without them missing out. Now, while my children at home are in a very regular routine with bedtimes and things, all of that definitely goes out the window on a Disney cruise as we try to maximise the magic. Well, on the first Disney cruise, I did opt for that earlier dining slot. For subsequent Disney cruises, I did go for the later dining slot. Now, obviously, it's going to depend what suits your family best, but definitely have a think before selecting your slot. When you book your Disney cruise, you'll be allocated at random either earlier earlier or later dining, and you can go into the website or into your Disney Cruise Line Navigator app and change this over before you sail. So that way you'll know whether you'll be eating later or earlier. You just won't know in which restaurant you'll be eating on which night until you get on board. So which dining slot is best for you? Late dining is often less rushed, so that might be a good option if that's something you're looking for. If you have children that are likely to want to go to sleep afterwards, obviously the earlier dining slot might work best for you. With this in mind, there are often fewer children at the later dining slots. Remember, when you're attending your rotational dining, you can actually order as much as you like. All of the main menu items in rotational dining are included in your cruise fare. There are some optional extras, and we'll get to those in a minute. So if you want a starter, a main and a dessert, great. If you'd rather go for 2 starters, skip the main and 2 desserts, that's your choice. And generally, if you can't make up your mind between dishes, you'll often be brought both. The food is all so stunning. It's beautifully prepared, beautifully presented, and tastes exquisite. It's a really good opportunity to try something that perhaps you wouldn't try if you were just showing up at a restaurant and paying the bill at the end of the meal, because if you end up ordering something you're not fussed on, there's plenty more food available on the ship. No one is going to starve on a Disney cruise. Remember, even if it's not on the menu, a Mickey bar is always on the menu. You can always ask for a Mickey bar, even if you're a grown-up, which I often do. If your children are getting restless, you can always ask for their meals to come out early, and you could just pop them to Kids Club to go and play and hang out with all of the cast members there. But honestly, the server teams we've had on board the Disney Cruise Line have been so amazing. They've been brilliant at entertaining the children. They've done magic tricks. They really have been next level. The service you get on a Disney Cruise Line is like nothing you get anywhere else on the planet. The server teams have always taken such amazing care of us on board the Disney Cruise Line that on top of tipping them, and there will be a totally separate video going into tipping and answering all of your questions there, because I know you guys have a lot of them, so make sure you subscribe with bell notifications on so you don't miss that. But on top of tipping them, we do like to take a little pixie dust gift to just say an extra special thank you for taking care of us. Often we just like to take special sweets and biscuits that we can only get in the UK that obviously they're not going to be able to get on board the ship. And on top of their tips, the server teams always appreciate these things. They really do get to know you and your family and your needs and your preferences, and will often surprise you with things like, oh, I just brought you this drink because I knew you probably would want one. Which brings me on to what is included and what is not included when it comes to rotational dining. All of the meals on the menu are included. The standard soft drinks that go with your meal are also included. Soft drinks are a bit confusing when it comes to Disney Cruise Line, because if you go to a soft drink station in either Cabanas, which is the quick service restaurant, or on deck, all of those soft drinks are included. Most soft drinks are included in rotational dining, but if you order the same soft drink that would be free in the self-serve station at a bar or in room service, then you would be expected to pay for that. So just watch out for that. Now, there are upcharge drinks available. All alcoholic drinks on the Disney Cruise Line are available at an extra charge. There are also specialty soft drinks such as mocktails, including drinks in special cups such as the ones on Pirate Night, which can be brought home as keepsakes, as well as specialty coffees too. If you do have any optional extras, these will be added to your room. They will ask to scan either your Magic Band Plus or your room key card, and you will be asked to sign for it, and that will be added to your room bill, which will be settled before you disembark the ship. Although the official menus are not available on shore, as soon as you embark the ship, you can check out what's available on the menu in each of your rotational dining restaurants on your Disney Cruise Line Navigator app. If you don't like the order of the restaurants that have been assigned to you, there is always an option to visit guest services on embarkation day and ask if there's any availability to switch. This isn't something we've ever done, and it's not something that's guaranteed, but if there's available, Disney Cruise Line will always try to be accommodating. I get lots of questions asking about allergies and how accommodating Disney Cruise Line are for families with allergies. Although we as a family are lucky enough not to have to deal with that, I appreciate that if you're a family that has got allergies, especially if there are severe allergies involved, that must be very worrying and a huge concern when you're traveling. Now, what I can tell you is I've spoken to so many families on board when we've had lovely subscribers come and chat to us and share their experiences about how amazing Disney Cruise Line have been with accommodating their needs when there have been allergies. Let me know in the comments if you've ever sailed with Disney Cruise Line with any allergies and what your experience has been. And in fact, generally, if you've you've ever sailed with Disney Cruise Line, let me know in the comments what's been your specific experience with rotational dining. Remember, you can always customize your meals. The menu is not set in stone. You can always have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They are so accommodating. Now, if you're lucky enough to be on a sailing where there is a pirate night, which they generally have on sailings 4 nights or more, one of the restaurants will be a repeater restaurant, and the menu available on board that day won't be specific to the restaurant you're dining in. It will be the same pirate night menu across the ship. If you are celebrating a special occasion, make sure you let your servers know. Twice now we've been on Disney Cruise Line celebrating anniversaries, and the servers have made a lovely fuss of my uncle and auntie who were celebrating. Endeavour to be on time for your rotational dining so you can maximise the experience, but remember, you don't actually have to go, although I would highly recommend going. There are plenty of other places that you can choose to eat in a less formal setting on the ship, both in the evenings and during the rest of the day. And if you want to know all about room service, quick service restaurants, deck food and more, click on the video on screen now and we'll carry on chatting about everything else you need to know about Disney Cruise Line food. Hang out with me a little more inside of my Patreon with some early release videos and some extra bonuses, and I'll see you over there. Bye.